why I started with that. Anywho, moving along. Hello everyone, so slightly different angle today. I'm sitting on a chair because I couldn't be bothered to sit on the floor. So it is that time of month for our reading wrap up, and boys do I have a juicy one for you today. It's the month I've read the most this year, and I have had a pretty wide variety on ratings. So let's get straight into it. So as you guys know, I like to throw some statistics at you, and again, if you guys have been here for a while, you'll know that I got this idea from Belteries on BookTube, YouTube, whatever you want to call it. So I just think this is a really good way to give you an overview of everything that I read and what it looked like, and then we go into depth on each of the books. But I just really like this idea. I think, yeah, like I said, it's a good way to give you guys a bit of an overview. So this is my June reading wrap up. So the first thing we go into is statistics. Now, this is just some general statistics. So as you can see, I read 11 books this month. I read 4,185 pages. My predominant format was ebook. I spent a lot of time on my Kindle this month, and my average rating was 4.29 stars, which is pretty good, especially for reading 11 books. To have it over 4 stars, I'm pretty happy with that. Then we move into genres. So as you can see in my genres, we read a bigger range, and I have also kind of changed the way I view romantasy as such, because I think there's such thing as like fantasy romance, and romance fantasies. So you can see there I've got dark romance. I read 4 books of dark romance. I read 1 romantasy, 3 fantasy romance, 1 young adult book, 1 young adult fantasy, and 1 romance. Now the reason why I separated them is because romantasy to me is where the romance is really heavy, and then you have like fantasy romance where you have a fantasy plot line with a romance subplot. To me, that's sort of the difference between that. I've decided to break them down a little bit because I just think that needs to happen. So moving on to ratings, I read 2 5-star books, I read 3 4.75 star books, I read 1 4.5-star rated book, 2 4.25 stars, 1 4-star, and 2 7.5 stars. And then you guys know I like to show you guys like a general tropes that I do, or that I read for the month. This is not all of them. If I had written down all of them in that pie chart, I would not have been able to see pretty much any of them, but these were the ones that were like the most prevalent across most of the books that I read. My top 5 tropes are: I read 7 books that had slow burn, 7 books that had he falls first, 6 books that had the forbidden romance element, and 3 books that had the touch her and die, and 3 books that had mafia. Okay, now let's move on to what I read for the month. So you guys know that I have made my own reading journal, and I like to show you guys what that kind of looks like. So this is what my month sort of overview looks like. I've got like the calendar there, and like the title page and stuff like that, so I can see like what I read on what days. And then we move on to what I read first. Okay, the first book I read was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is a book that has been on my TBR, my physical TBR, for over 12 months at this point. I had no desire to pick it up. Every time I looked at it, I was like, meh, didn't think anything of it. And that's why I did the TBR jar that I did for picking my June's TBR, is I just didn't want to be biased, because if you guys saw my July TBR picking video, when I do spin the wheels, I'm able to like pick books that I'm interested in that fit that prompt, whereas the way I did it for June forced me to pick up books that I was not as interested in. So that's why I did it that way. And you know what? I'm really glad I did, because I actually enjoyed this more than I thought I would. I didn't realize it was young adult fantasy, but I can deal with young adult in fantasy settings. I find that generally they tend to be a little bit more mature, and is usually a little bit more of a plot line to follow, so you're not just relying on the romance. So that's why I can get through it a little bit more. The tropes we have in this are love triangle, mortals, and fae. We have secrets, enemies to lovers, grumpy / cold hero. It's a bully romance, and it is also forbidden. Like I said, I actually enjoyed this more than I thought I would. I am really excited to read the second book, although I haven't heard the best reviews moving on through this series. So I'm still going to do it because I find it interesting, and I want to know like I want to know what happens between the two protagonists in this book, and I want to know where the story goes from here. So I am interested in reading the rest of it, and I probably will. When, I don't know, but yeah, this was the first book that I read this month. I rated this a 4-star, and it got a half a chili spice rating, because even though it is YA, it's kind of like, it's almost like new young adult, where it's like, has a slight description, but it's not super graphic and not vulgar. So and that's why I gave it a 0.5 chili spice. That's pretty much that. I don't have a lot to say on this book. Like I said, I wasn't super excited about it. I did enjoy it more than I thought I would, but it's also not like a book that's super high in my memory. Even though it got rated 4 stars, it's still not something that's like super high in my memory. So it's something that I think about all the time. And that's what I generally tend to save my 5-star ratings for, is like books that I know I'm going to think about all the time, or I'm going to recommend them to people or anything like that. So like I said, 4-star and half a chili spice. Okay, moving on, we then read Enter Chameleon by A Double. I didn't know what to expect out of this book. This is a newer author, indie published. I have the duet of this book, and I really enjoyed this. This is a dark romance book. I read this on my Kindle as well. We have he falls first, boss employee, like a runaway, care for you trope. Also a little bit forbidden, because obviously boss employee, that's kind of a forbidden romance. This follows Megan and Jack. Megan is originally from Brisbane, Australia, and something happens to her father, and her mother remarries, and the man her mother remarried to is not a nice person, and she flees and leaves in the middle of the night, and she ends up in Scotland. And I found it really interesting to read, because I live in Queensland, so I was like, oh, I love that it's, you know, a Brisbane girl living in Scotland now. Really, really cool. So Megan is living in Scotland, and she ends up working at a spicy club. And when they first meet, when Jack and Megan first meet, Jack thinks that she's a working girl, not going for a hostess position, so like a bartending position. And he basically tells her to take everything off, turn around and spread so he can have a look. And she's like, excuse me. And so that was pretty much how it started. I really, really did enjoy this book. I've got the second book on my shelf. You can get these on Kindle Unlimited. They're super easy to read. And yeah, absolutely loved this book. I honestly was super surprised by this book and really, really enjoyed it. It got a 4.5 star from me and a 1 chili spice, because it is a little bit of a slow burn. So you don't really get any spice till quite later on. There's one particular scene where it's not really like spice, but it's like a taboo BDSM part of it, and that was really good, but it doesn't involve our MCs, I should say. Yeah, Enter Chameleon by A Double. Love that. Highly recommend. And then I read Rival Darling by Alexandra Moody. I was super excited to read this. It's fake dating. I love fake dating tropes. I think it's amazing. The other tropes we have in this is slow burn, rivalries, and it's a sports romance as well. It's an ice hockey romance. Now, this is going to come as a shock. This is a young adult book, completely YA. There is no spice involved. It is set in high school, and I'm not someone that usually enjoys YA in those circumstances, but I loved this. This is my favorite ice hockey romance I have ever read so far, and I've read 4 or 5 now, I think. Yeah, I've read 4 or 5 now, I think. I think this was book 4 that I read of ice hockey, and the only thing that bothered me in this was we did have like the miscommunication trope the whole way through, but like they're 17 and 18 year olds, so it kind of makes sense, and they're not like 17, 18 year olds acting like they're 30. Like they were written age appropriately, which I don't know if that made it easier or worse, but when the third act conflict came and it was because of miscommunication, it made it more tolerable, because I knew that they were only 17 or 18 years old and they'd had miscommunication the whole way through. So I think when miscommunication is done like that, it's okay. But yeah, I really, 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 really love this book. So this follows Violet and Reed. Violet has moved to a place in Minnesota, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's in Minnesota. She's moved from California to Minnesota, or Minneapolis, I believe. I'm not sure. It's one of those two. And she's moved because her mother has gotten a job overseas, and she's moved in with her uncle and her cousin, and these two go to rival schools. She was originally dating the captain of her ice hockey team at her school. something happened and it ended, and she ends up fake dating the captain of their rival school, and it goes from there. Their story goes from there. It's super funny. I giggled quite a lot during this book, just certain things. And again, I think because they were written age appropriately, you could laugh at the secondhand embarrassment, and you would get the secondhand embarrassment, but you could laugh at it because you kind of, reading it as an adult, you go, I've been there, I've done that. So it was very interesting, and I really, really enjoyed this. I know a lot of people wouldn't enjoy this book, but I highly recommend. Like I said, it got 5 stars for me. No chili spice, because yeah, there's no spicy stuff that happens in this, but it's really, really good. Like, highly recommend this book as well. Then I finished Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Now, I listened to this on Audible, and I'm glad that I did, because I don't think I would have been able to get through it had I actually read it physically. Now that I know the story, I would like to go back and read it physically and maybe annotate it, but I enjoyed this more than I thought I would. I've heard very mixed reviews on this book, but for me personally, I think that the fantasy element was done really well, and this is where I think that this is a heavier, in my personal opinion, I think this has more of a fantasy plotline than it does a romance plotline. It's like it's got a sub-romance plotline to it. The fantasy in this one specifically isn't super high. It is, but it's not like Fourth Wing. We have a war that's going on between 2 gods specifically, and these 2 people, we have Iris and Roman, are competing for the same position at their newspaper where they work. And they also have these enchanted typewriters, and they're communicating to each other, and they don't know who they're communicating to, but it turns out that they're actually talking to each other. The tropes we have in this, they're workplace rivals, it's a slow burn, war setting, and he falls first. The romance that does come out in like the back third was really quite beautiful. I did enjoy it towards the end. It did take a little while to get into. It was quite slow at the start, but like I said, I enjoyed this more than I thought I would, to the point where like it got a 4.25 star rating, and it got a half a chili spice. It's not super descriptive, it's not super graphic. There's like only one scene in this, and it's very like old school. Like it was really quite beautiful, the romance that did come up in this. So I do recommend this book. And if you are like me and you're like, oh, I don't know if I'll be able to read that because it seems really slow, listen to it on Audible while you're doing stuff around the house, because that's what I do. If I'm editing or, you know, fulfilling some orders, I'll usually listen to an audiobook, or if I'm cleaning or cooking, anything like that, I'll generally listen to an audiobook. So Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. And yeah, this is one of those ones that I was saying I think is like a fantasy romance. I think the fantasy elements are heavier than the romance, because if it was heavier on the romance, I probably would have been able to actually read it, where I really struggled. So take that as you will. Next up, I don't have the physical on me, but when that book ended, I had to go and start the next one straight away. So I did start listening to it straight away, which is, I'll put it up on the screen, Ruthless, Vows by Rebecca Ross. Now, I liked this more than the first one. I hear the opposite quite a lot from people that talk about this duology. I think the second one was so much harder hitting. I think that the romance was more beautiful in it. I think that the fantasy got even better in it. I think it was really awesome getting to see more of the dynamic between the gods that were at war, and seeing more of their abilities come through and like what happens. Obviously I'm not going to tell you too much about it, because it is the second book in the duology and I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I just think that all of the elements that we had in the first book got amplified in the second book, and I really enjoyed it. And again, listening to it, there was moments where I actually just stopped what I was doing and focus on the book, because I thought like it just gripped me so hard, and I was like, what? And certain things that were happening. And yeah, so this book got a 4.75 star rating from me, and a 2.5 chili spice. And again, I'm not going to tell you the tropes in it, because I think it'll give stuff away from the first book. So if you guys want to read this book, go and read the duology, because I highly recommend reading the second book. I think you need to get through the first book and read the second book. Not that the first book's hard to get through, but I definitely think everyone should read this duology. I think it was really quite beautiful, and I liked the plot line personally. Okay, and then moving on, we read Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the second book in the Maple Hill series, and so it's the book after Icebreaker. This follows Russ and Aurora. I was an idiot in my June TBR picking video. I know who Russ is. Russ is such a beautiful character, and I'm so glad that we got to get this story, but I'm also really glad that I didn't put two and two together until I was reading the book, because I think maybe my expectations might have been too high and I might have ended up being let down by it. But because I didn't know who these characters were, or I thought I didn't know who these characters were, it exceeded my expectations because I didn't go into it with any expectations, and I really enjoyed this book. So Russ is on the ice hockey team at Maple Hills, and Aurora Roberts is I think she's an English student. They're at a college party one night at Russ's, would you call it, his like campus house, I suppose. And Aurora's friend Amelia, I believe is her name, drags Aurora along to this party, and they play a game of Jenga. It has dares on it. If you don't want to do that, you have to do the forfeit. If you don't do the forfeit, you have to take 2 shots. If you're not a hulking ice hockey player and have a whole bunch of muscle, just 1. But they play this game, things get really spicy between them, they have a one-night stand, and she leaves before they can even talk to each other. And then they end up at summer camp as camp counselors, where fraternization is forbidden. So again, we have the forbidden romance, forced proximity, because they are at the same camp. It's a summer romance, it's college romance, and it is a slow burn. And I absolutely love this. And actually, I'm looking back at my rating, and I've rated it a 4.75 stars, but I actually think maybe it's worth a 5-star, because I have not stopped thinking about this book since I've read it. I annotated it quite a lot. And again, I just really, really enjoyed this book. I loved the concept. I loved the setting. I know why I took a quarter of a star off. And it was just one scene in particular that really pissed me off. Even though it didn't go down that path, it still just pissed me off that it was like the direction it went in, and then just to pull back from it. It's like, I don't know, just don't bother going down that path if you're not going to commit to it, sort of thing. Yeah, I think a 4.75 star fits with that. I gave it a 2 chili spice rating. I think Hannah Grace does a really good job of bringing the spice in books. If you didn't like Icebreaker, read this book, because this book is better than Icebreaker, I think. And I think I rated Icebreaker 5 stars, but I actually think this one's better. My ratings have sort of changed because I'm reading more, and I now have other books that like are topping other books, and now I'm like, no, like that book doesn't fit because of this. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think this is better than Icebreaker, even though I might have rated Icebreaker 5 stars. I can't remember, but yeah, this is better than Icebreaker, I think. Wildfire by Hannah Grace, 4.75 stars and 2 chili spice. And then we had Onyx Storm. You guys know that I was doing a buddy read with my book bestie, Captain Ventress. He has a YouTube channel, he does gaming. Go check him out if you want. I'll link his page on the screen and in the description below as well. But I did a reread of Onyx Storm with him because it was the first time he was reading it, and it was my reread. There is an Onyx, like a full spoilers video coming of me and Tim discussing this book and reading it together. You get my vlog footage and then like our phone calls discussing it. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to take me ages to edit because we had like 2 one-hour phone calls discussing this book. And there was plenty of other phone calls that happened off of camera as well, because we were just so interested in this book. And this turned out to be his favorite book in the series. I think he rated this a 5-star, and he still thinks about it since we finished reading it. And I like this, every book in this series has gotten a 5-star from me. I love this series. It's my favorite series on the planet. Like, this is my Roman Empire fantasy. Like, I love this series. I have 2 levels. I have like high fantasy and then like fantasy. This is just fantasy for me. This, I can't, like, it just, obviously it's still a 5-star read. It got a 3 chili spice for me. I can't tell you too much about it because obviously 3rd book in the series, but you can see all the orange tabs are things that I picked out on the reread. All the orange is just from the reread. So literally there is so much on here now. It's just crazy to me, but I loved this book so much. It's my little baby, and I'm so glad that Book Bestie enjoyed it too, because now we have a favorite book that is both of our favorite books. Okay, then we went on to read another dark romance, which was Stolen Heir by Sophie Lark. Now I know that this is the second book in the Brutal Birthright series, I believe it's called. Yeah, Brutal Birthright series. This was amazing. This, I think when I picked it, I said it was giving me like the Darkest Temptation vibes, and it hit that so well. This got a 4.75 star rating from me and a 2 chili spice. We have Mafia, Captive Captor, He Falls First, Enemies to Lovers, and an age gap. And I love an age gap. I know it's super taboo, but I can deal with like a 10 to 15 year age gap. Love it. Think it's great. One of my favorite books that I've read this year was Praise by Sarah Kate. And that had like a 20-year age gap, like a 19-year age gap. Love it. It was like ex-boyfriend's dad. Love it. So this is a mafia rivalry between two families. You have Nessa, and Miko is the, I suppose you could say, Don. It's not the Cosa Nostra, but you have Nessa is the youngest daughter in the Irish mafia, and you have Miko, who is the head of the Polish mafia, and it's set in Chicago. Nessa she knows what her family does, but she's not involved in the mafia business like her brother and sister are. And some stuff happens between the two families that Nessa isn't necessarily involved in, but Miko knows that she is the family's weak spot. So he decides to kidnap her, and their story goes from there. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because I think you should just go in blind and read this, to be honest, because I think it is really great. The love story in this was really beautiful. It's also like a bit of a Beauty and the Beast reimagining / retelling. She actually calls him the Beast all the way through this in her POV, and I honestly think it is so good. And Beauty and the Beast is my favorite childhood story. Beauty and the Beast was always my favorite. It's my favorite Disney movie. It was my favorite Disney book that I had. I literally just bought one for my child as well, because like I said, it was my favorite growing up. So I really, really enjoyed this. She's a ballerina as well, which I really loved, and I highly recommend this series. I'm excited to continue on with the series and also read the first book in the series, but it was nice to be able to read this. I know who the first book is about now, because I obviously got to the back and it had it all in the back of like who the first book was about. Yeah, it has it on the front there, like who the first book is about. But reading this before reading the first one, there's no major spoilers. The only thing that like I know is that the first one was an arranged marriage. That's the only thing that like is a spoiler, but there was no huge spoilers in this book. So you can as far as I can tell, you can read them out of order and it's not the biggest deal. So I really like that. For interconnected standalones, I think that really, really works. Even though it says Brutal Birthright series, I think it still kind of works as like interconnected standalones, which I really loved. So yeah, like I said, this got a 4.75 star rating and a 2 chili spice. And then we did another reread, which was The Sweetest Oblivion by Daniell. The reason why I reread this was I had an order come through on my Etsy for this and The Sweetest Oblivion, and as I was doing the annotations, I was like, that's not enough annotations. So I reread it, and I don't know if that was the wisest choice, because the amount of annotations that I sent off to this girl today, almost every page had some type of annotation in it. So take that as you will. I really enjoyed this on the reread. I do think I was too generous in giving it a 5 star the first time round, but I was new to reading and everything was great at the time. But now, after consuming so much more, and my standards being a little bit different, and having other books as like what I would compare the books to, I did bump this down a little bit, not by a lot, but a little bit, to give you a rundown on what this book is. So this follows Elena and Nico. Elena is the daughter of one of the families involved in I think it's the Cosa Nostra, I believe is how you say it. Essentially the Italian mafia. This is based in New York. Now, you also have Nico, who is the Don of another family involved in the Italian mafia, and they all have their own territories within New York. There's something that happens with Elena 6 months before this book takes place, and I'm not going to tell you what that is because it's a huge plot line in this story, but essentially something happens and Elena is no longer available for marriage, and her sister gets married off into an arranged marriage with Nico. Nico sees Elena and decides that he essentially wants her. Elena hates him, but also just cannot keep away from him either. It's a beautiful story between the two of them. I really, really love it. I think it has a good plot line as well as a really heavy romance plot line. So if you like heavy romance, this is definitely a book for you. This is my second favorite book in the series. The Darkest Temptation is 100% my favorite. That's part of the reason why I bumped down the rating on this, because The Darkest Temptation to me is a 5-star rating. So this couldn't be a 5-star if it's not my favorite in the series. So that was part of the reason why I bumped it down. But yeah, I really love this book. This got a 4.75 star rating from me and a 2.5 chili spice, because it's not super spicy, it's slow burn, it's mafia, it's an arranged marriage, forbidden in the sense that it's her sister's fiance. You have the touch her and die trope. Really great, love this book. I did really enjoy it. Like I said, I still really enjoy this book. Then we moved on to How Does It Feel by Jeneane O'Reilly. This is the Infatuated Fae Book 1. I listened to this on Audible while I was fulfilling the order that I had for my Etsy shop. I didn't really enjoy this book. I am glad that I listened to it rather than tried to read it. I remember trying to read it and I really, really struggled. I had my bookmark in there to keep track of where I was. But yeah, I remember reading it and I really, really struggled. I only read up to chapter 4 when I read it, tried to read it physically. And yeah, I don't know how to explain this book without giving major spoilers. The only reason why I'm going to read the next book and decide whether or not I'm going to continue on with the series after the next book is because of the way this book ended. It was not what I was expecting. You'd basically been lied to the entire time. And I was very, very shocked by it. And it's the only reason why I'm going to continue, because I am interested to find out what happens in the next book. But it felt really slow to read, even though I was listening to it. And I listened to books on 1.75 to 2 times speed, and it still felt so slow. Super slow burn, but not a lot of plot. It felt repetitive. It felt, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was just repetitive. It felt slow. It actually felt like trying to pull teeth. That's what it felt like reading this book. It was painful to listen to and read. The spice was super cringy. It wasn't super spicy because, it was a slow burn, but just the dialogue used during the spicy scenes are super cringy. I was going to say I don't like graphic detail, but that's not the case. I don't like super vulgar language to explain the spicy scenes, if that makes sense. So give me all the details, give me all the graphics, but don't be vulgar about it, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it, but okay, for example, I don't like "see you next Tuesday" being used as a description for that. That is too vulgar for me and I don't like it. And I understand why it was used in this setting, but not for me. So I think I'm going to read the next book in the series and decide from there where I want to go with it, because I am very curious to know where the story's going to go from there. I hope the second book's better than this book, because this book was so slow. And if the second book is again a building book, I'm going to have issues, then I'm probably not going to continue the series. So yeah, this got a 2.75 star and a 1 chili spice from me. The last book I read this month, and I literally finished it yesterday, and it was another reread, but I didn't read the entire thing because I hate the first part of this book. It literally does my head in. But I read The Maddest Obsession by Daniell. Again, like I said, I had an order come through my Etsy shop, and the lovely lady ordered the first and second book in the series, because I hadn't had the third book in the series posted on my Etsy shop yet. It's now up there, so you can buy the whole set, and I do have them, so you can buy them in sets as well at a slightly cheaper price. Like I said, the start of this book, I just cannot, I cannot. The start of the book goes into her past, and it goes into the past, sorry. And it's about their past and where they crossed, where their lives crossed, and it's right person, wrong time, which is fine, I can deal with that. But it just felt like what we were talking about with the past didn't add a lot to the story, because when we went to the present time, there were still other things that came up that wasn't discussed in the past timeline that had more of an impact on the story. So I tried to read the first half of it, or the first part of it, because it's split into 2 parts. I don't actually know. It's about a third of the book. The first third of the book is like past, and then from chapter 8 onwards it is present day. But yeah, so like you can see, it's about a third of the book. I just couldn't, like, I tried to read a couple of chapters of it, I was like, nah. So I skipped to chapter 8 and got through from there. And it, like, I could read the back end of the book a lot faster. I think I read it in like 2.5 hours or something. I read it on my Kindle as well. But I still, like, even on the reread, I still don't like this book. It's not that I don't like it. It's just my least favorite in the series so far. I just think it's the weakest book. I think that the romance isn't strong. I think that the writing isn't as strong. I think that the timeline isn't as strong. Yeah, just like I said, it's really not my favorite book in the series. Like I said, we have Right Person, Wrong Time. It's obviously Mafia. This follows Christian and Gianna. Gianna is part of Nico's family, I suppose. She was actually his stepmother. Nico's father died, so her husband died, and she had to remarry, so she married a really old guy within the Cosa Nostra. I don't know how to say it, I'm butchering it. The Italian mafia. And she has run-ins with Christian, who is an FBI agent, so again, it's a little bit forbidden. And Christian is actually part of the Bravata, so the Russian mafia. And so even more forbidden because the Italians and Russians don't usually mix like that. But he sees her, he wants her, he decides that he has to have her and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain this book to you as to why I dislike it so much. I just think I didn't connect with the characters. I didn't find their connection either. And also this has like the pregnancy trope thrown in at the end. Not that it was used as a plot device to keep them together. It's just like, I knew it was coming even the first time I read it, but still, I don't know. This book isn't for me. If you were going to read the series, I would say skip this book. I don't think it's that important to the story. You can skip this book 100%, unless you really want to see the little sprinklings of Elena and Nico, then read it. But even then, I don't think it's worth it, to be honest. So this got a 2.75 star and a 2 chili spice rating because the spice in this is pretty good, not gonna lie. But I prefer the spice in The Darkest Temptation. So, like, well, that's to be expected. It's my favorite book, but yeah. So that's that. I'm sorry if this video kind of felt all over the place. I have been running on no sleep. My child is teething really badly at the moment. He is up multiple times a night. I'm barely sleeping. I am just exhausted. Exhibit A. So sorry if that seemed like very like all over the place. Yeah, that is it for today's video. I can't believe I read 11 books this month. That's insane to me. I have to reorganize my bookshelves yet again because I have no room for the books that I have read this month. If you haven't already, go and watch my July TBR. I'm super excited for the books that are in my July TBR. And also I did just put up a book recommendation tag based on zodiac signs, which was really difficult to do, but also really great. I really loved it. I'm so happy I did that. And keep an eye out because my Onyx Storm full spoiler reading vlog is coming soon with featuring Book Bestie. And yeah, that's it for me today. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm trying to become more active over there. I'm a bit slow sometimes. I'm a full-time uni student and a full-time single mom, so I am jam-packed 24/7, as well as like trying to have time for myself with reading and going to dance classes and all that sort of stuff, as well as trying to do YouTube. There's just a lot going on. So anyway, follow me on TikTok and Instagram. Like I said, that'll be on the screen and in the down box for you as well. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you like. If you have read any of the books that I've read that I read this month, make sure you comment down below and let me know what you rated them. Make sure you keep it spoiler free for everyone else in the comments though, and share this video out so that other people will see it. And I think that's it. There's other links like my Goodreads and my Fable and my Etsy shop down below, but I'm never on Goodreads. I don't put any of my reviews up there, to be honest. I probably should. I might just have to like sit down for a day and do that. But another video that I'm going to do as well is like a halfway through the year reading wrap up, and then I'm going to do another one at the end of the year because I am like super close. I think I'm like 12 books away from hitting my goal for the year, so that's super exciting. Super happy about that. But that's it for me today, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Mwah.